Welcome back to the Retire Young radio show. I am your host, Joshua David, sweating to the oldies with my good friend, Mr. Al Connickson. We talked earlier about the smart money, the banks, the institutions. They are always trading the proper assets that have income potential, right? Now, we have a lot of listeners that want to understand how do they do that? What are some of the things that they do? But what we want to do as a proper trader and investor is we want to trade like them. No one is going to ever beat the banks. It takes millions and billions of dollars to do that. Let's talk more about how we trade like the smart money and not against them.
Yeah, I guess to keep it simple is you can't beat them, so you might as well join them. And it's basically just following what they do. But you think about it, why don't we, or why doesn't the public, why don't the amateurs trade like the institutions? Well, think about it. Who is teaching you how to do that? No one. Crickets. Where's that cricket sound?
Yeah, I was slow on that one.
Yeah, but no one is doing that. Even the institutions that where you might be their client, they're not teaching you to do what they're doing. They're putting you into something that they're not necessarily doing. Most of their clients, most of the Wall Street firms' clients are in mutual funds or individual stocks, not in some of the assets that they're trading. So that's the key is to understand what they're doing. What are they doing that's different, and why are they doing it? They're doing it because they understand the value of some of these other assets, other than mutual funds, other than just stock. And the great thing for us is that you don't have to have a different kind of foundational strategy for each individual one. The strategy that our students use is a core strategy that you utilize no matter what you're trading, whether it is stock or whether it's, and we'll talk about these other markets, the futures market, the Forex market, the options market. But this is what's key. We want our students to be able to think, act, and execute like the pros, basically following what they're doing. And this is the most important. There's two components to any trade that are really important. Number one is identifying where price is going to turn. That's basically the start of a trend. And then how far it's going to go. That's profit. Well, how do you do that? It's easy for me to say that, but how do you do it? Well, basically what I've just described is what we call it's going to result in a quality trade. That's one that has the highest probability of going in your favor, which should be what you want to achieve. It also has a high profit potential, and then also the lowest chance or reduced chance of you being wrong. And the way you do that, those quality trades always happen at or near the turn in price in any financial market. And in any financial market, that happens, that price turn happens at price levels where buyers and sellers are out of balance, supply and demand, in other words. And we know in any financial situation or transaction, if there's more demand for something, price will go up. If there's more supply, price will go down. So the key then is to be able to identify where that buying pressure is, where the buying demand is, where the selling demand is. But what if you could identify that before it actually happened? So you're identifying something that hasn't happened yet, that is going to happen, that will provide the potential for a quality trade for you. It's basically finding what we call unfilled orders. There are orders that the institutions are ready to put into the market or take out of the market, and they do it in such large volume that it has to move the price. And the key to being able to take advantage of it is being able to read on a price chart where that's going to happen. So it's really like finding an area where there might be millions of buy orders waiting, and an area where there might be millions of sell orders waiting to come into the market, giving you the opportunity to be positioned so you're already ready to be in or out of a trade when that price level is hit. And, one fallacy I think that the people need to overcome is that you don't need to be an expert or use one to benefit from these markets. The education is there. And when we look at financial education, Josh, as a pathway to a desired result. It's sort of like, have you ever gone through a maze?
Actually, I went through a corn maze one time.
A corn maze, yeah. Well, for a lot of people, and I'm included here, I get stressed out when I go on those things because I'm always concerned I'm not going to be able to find the end point. And for a lot of people, that's what their financial life is like. It's like a maze where they may never get to the end, or it may take them longer to get to the end point, but there's a lot of stress involved there. So what we want to do is basically take our students' hands, walk them down that pathway, It's a step-by-step process that they follow. We want our students to set goals, set educational goals, and we help them do that. And those goals are geared towards providing the opportunity for them to realize their financial goals and stay out of that maze kind of a situation. So we mentioned some of the other assets, and I want to go into those here. I know that you have something you would like to say.
Well, maybe.
Well, it's about time I stopped talking.
It's about time. I like how you mentioned the maze. There's a lot of people listening right now probably have a maze from their living room to their kitchen. But that's what's happening with people's finances is they don't know which way to go, but they don't know how to start. And you have to have a strategy. That's one of the first things. You have to learn a strategy. That's why Al's talking about a core strategy that's designed to teach you to make better investing decisions. And it's all about trading the supply and the demand, where the banks are buying or the institutions are buying, but also where they are selling. Now, we talk a lot about the stock market, and that's what everybody knows. And we got to get away from that because there's some great markets out there. You have the futures market and the Forex market. The institutions are using these every single day because they have great income potential. That's why they use them. Now, they use them because they have a couple different perks, we'll say. They have leverage, which I know you'll explain coming up. But they're also open around the clock. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean to somebody that's listening right now? What if you had the opportunity to trade and invest in the evening if you work during the day? I'll talk about these great markets. What is the futures market? And then we'll get into the Forex market after that.
Well, you talk about opportunities. We talk about having an edge, and that edge is basically following what the institutions are doing, utilizing the different assets that are available. But first of all, getting the education, getting the knowledge to use them before you try. And the knowledge should also be has to be accompanied by the skill to use the knowledge. But why do the institutions use these other assets? You mentioned futures and Forex. Those trade 24 hours a day, and the stock market's open 6.5 hours a day. So, just look at the numbers. You have many more opportunities to participate in these other assets, not just the daytime hours that the stock market is open. And for a lot of people, they're working, and they just don't have the time to be able to participate. And the other reason that the institutions use this, we're going to call them short-term trading assets, leveraged assets, is because they realize the value of it. They are not interested in just putting together a portfolio and then holding on to it for 10, 15, 20 years before they reap a profit from it. They're looking at something that's short-term. Why might that be important for us as non-professionals? Well, because we have financial needs. And we kind of look at your financial world and divide it into two components, kind of two buckets. One is an income bucket, which is really providing benefits for you now. Typically, that bucket is filled with income from your job. And then there's that wealth bucket. That's what you're going to rely on later in life. And when you look at the two buckets, that income bucket, which again, for most people is filled with income from their jobs, that is what is used to basically keep you alive, while you're working towards the point that you're retired.
They call it keeping on chugging.
Keeping on chugging, right? Because the keeping on chugging requires food. It requires a shelter of some sort. There's a lot of things that are necessities that has to come out of that income bucket. But the other thing that has to come out of that income bucket has to be an overflow to go into your wealth bucket, because that's where the assets come from to kind of feed that bucket. So that's why for a lot of people, they're looking for something in addition to their job to fill that income bucket. And we always talk about the truly successful financial people in the world having multiple sources of income. And why that's important is that one source of income may disappear. It may not be enough to really provide everything that you desire and that you need for later on. So some people look at the financial markets to develop that income.
It's an option. It's an option that's out there because people want more choices. We talk about those three C's.
Exactly.
Having more than one choice can make a difference.
Yeah, and this may not be right for you. It is for some people. It's not for other people. And these classes are a great way to determine that. And that's really the goal of the classes that Josh has been talking about, is for you to see whether this is something that is worth pursuing for you. If you do decide that you want to look at the financial markets to kind of fill that income bucket, Then these short-term trading vehicles, futures, Forex, and options are great opportunities for you because they can be utilized in short-term trading time periods. Futures, for example, oftentimes people that trade futures are in and out of a trade maybe on a daily basis or sometimes within hours.
Well, basically, when you have a proper strategy, what Al's talking about, you dictate how you do that. So if you want to be a shorter term trader, you can do that. If you want to be a longer term trader, there's strategies and techniques for that as well.
Right. And we have students here that are short-term traders, intermediate term, and then long-term investors. And the great thing is that core strategy that we talked about, that foundational strategy, really it's a timing strategy that is utilized not only for all of the different assets, but all of the different time frames. So you don't have to learn something different, foundationally different, if you have a style that might be different than your next door neighbor.
Well, that's kind of a personality too. I mean, some people like to be a shorter term trader. Some people don't like to, be at their computer. They want to have the computer work for them, and they want to be a longer term. So that's why when you have this strategy, you set it up, and there's a platform called Click, and we're going to talk about that later. Yep. That'll guide you through your process based on how you want to be an investor.
Yeah, and we understand the individual differences that are out there, and people have different goals, different expectations. Some people are a little more aggressive than others, and some people are very conservative. And we understand that, and we structure our education to be customized to each individual, and that's really important. There isn't one strategy or one style that is a one style fits all. People need to look at themselves as individuals and have a plan that's put together that really is identifying and taking advantage of what the opportunities are for them, for their particular style, their particular assets, or their particular desires and goals.
Yeah, and everybody has that different. Everybody wants a different outcome. You have to find that yourself, and that's what some of the great things. When people that work with Al Al's able to help people kind of discover what they're looking to do, because it's kind of based on personality as well. And that's why you do need a strategy that's designed to teach you to make those investing decisions that you're looking for. And you want to trade the proper assets. We talk about these other assets, the futures and the Forex market. Great markets to be investing in because, like I was talking about, you have the leverage, which is basically buying power, but also they are open round the clock. So if you work during the day, you have the opportunity to participate in these markets in the evening. Now think about that. Most people think that they cannot trade and invest because the stock market's only open 6.5 hours a day. Well, that's true with the stock market. There's other opportunities, especially when the institutions and the smart money are using these. What we talked about earlier, we want to trade like them, not against them. Al, coming up next, I want to talk about retirement, some of the things that we're looking for once we get a little bit older. This is Josh and Al. We'll be right back.